Hello students, welcome to English Classroom. I am Dr. Suchitra Singh, Assistant Professor of English, VGDC, Vidyanagar. Today we'll go ahead with the second part of our lesson, that is Happy People, prescribed for semester 1, that is BA, BCom, BSc and BBA by Osmania University. Now, yesterday we had done a part of this Happy People, and then we also asked this question: what, in your opinion, are things that make one happy? So, today I would like to again start by asking that question: what is it that makes someone happy? So let me share a video on that with you, right? Um, so yeah, I will try to share this video with you. Let's see what they have to say about happiness. Okay, one second.
What is happiness?
I think happiness is a pretty complicated concept that has to do with just sort of pleasure on the one hand, but has to do with broader meaning also.
We know that there's a whole spectrum of a positive state that one wants to attain that is much more nuanced than the word happiness would imply.
It seems to me that happiness is some blend of experience of pleasure and the experience of meaning and fulfillment in life, and I think much more of the latter than the former.
For me, staying in my own lane, not being comparative to others, my peers that could have more than me or less than me, that is when I'm the most happy, when I'm in my own lane.
So happiness is something more long-term. I can sensibly ask you if you're happy with your day or happy with your life. Pleasure is short-term. Say, pleasure is an experience that lasts 10 seconds, 20 seconds, a minute, a sip of wine. It could be hearing a joke, being hugged, watching your child laugh.
If you want to define happiness in any big picture way, you really want to be focusing more on what gives life meaning and purpose than you do on the moment-to-moment little jolts of joy that you may get.
Happiness to me before I was diagnosed with cancer a few years ago meant something very different to me. Happiness back then was about achieving these big milestones, graduating from college, getting the right kind of job. Now happiness to me is about the mundane, everyday little things in my life.
And we know a lot about the things that are associated with high life satisfaction. By far the most important is your relationships with other people.
There's kind of fleeting happiness, the kinds of little buzzes you get from eating an awesome ice cream sundae. But to me, the real happiness, what I would call joy, is kind of that deep connection you get with somebody else. My son racing up to me and just throwing his arms around my neck and his legs around my middle, and he's the koala bear and I'm the tree. That's happiness. That's happiness.
Well, we have heard good things about happiness, right? There's one more that I would like to share. So each one of them in this video, we're talking about different angles. See, there was a girl who said for her happiness was something else before she was diagnosed with cancer. And after being diagnosed with cancer, the whole perception of happiness has changed for her. For some, hugging their son is happiness. Yes, for some, happiness is something that is to be defined in a very long term. Right? Not 1 day or 2 days, but it's how we are happy with our life, with our situations, right? So they've been giving us different this thing. Now, I have something else to share with you all. Let me share even that with you. This is from the university campus ministry. Let's see what they talk about.
Yeah, so the question of the definition of happiness, what is happiness? In a way, there's nothing more important for us. If the ancients are right, if Thomas Aquinas is right, then all that we do is for the sake of happiness.
If you look at the history of human thought, happiness has always been a question of having our desires fulfilled in some way.
And if that's true, then there's such an imperative for us to figure out, okay, so what in the world is happiness?
Happiness is the maximal flourishing of a human being. Maximal flourishing in any aspect.
Well, I usually talk about joy as opposed to happiness, but either way, I would say that ultimately to be happy, we find ourselves happy when we're doing what we're made to be doing. And when we're ultimately happy when we are trying to fulfill the will of God, even when we fail.
We as Catholics and as people of faith, we go for another type of happiness. And when we reach that transcendent happiness, that is the real meaning of happiness.
What Thomas Aquinas says is that happiness is the perfect possession of the perfect good.
You need to possess the good you love. The good will make you flourish.
And I think if you asked anybody, like, hey, how would you like the perfect possession of the perfect good? I think that's a deal that almost everyone would take.
The ultimate happiness is, of course, in heaven, when we see God face to face.
God is a way to possess the maximal good. It will flourish you tremendously. But you can have some happiness already on earth.
Whether or not you're thinking about it or not, that's what you're going after. You want that perfect possession of the perfect good. It's like we're all looking for it. It's like the surfers looking for the perfect wave.
Our culture tends to define happiness by a feeling, right? And it tends to be focused on pleasure, like pleasure versus pain, the absence of pain, the presence of pleasure.
I can't help but think of the song Toes by the Zac Brown Band. I got my toes in the water, sitting in the sand, not a worry in the world, cold beer in my hand. Life is good, you know. I mean, that can be our picture of happiness.
Well, first of all, let's talk about what pleasure and emotion are. Emotion is a kind of a sentiment, but it's a sentiment that you feel in your body. And naturally, emotions, since they have that bodily component, really don't last.
This is shocking for many modern minds. They will put happiness in pleasure or in feeling, and this is not properly happiness. Happiness is more possessing a good and tending into the good.
For example, one of the big things in our society today is sex. People feel a lot of pleasure in sex, right? And they think that that is happiness. These are only superficial kind of happiness. We are made for better happiness, transcendent happiness.
There's something transcendent in us. You know, Aristotle will claim to have some proofs. Plato will claim to have some proofs for the immortality of the soul, for instance. That you're not just matter, that I'm not just matter, that there's something in me that goes beyond just matter, that goes beyond just the material.
Pleasure can be misleading because pleasure is a kind of rewarding feeling that we have, but it may not be fulfilling of us as a person.
Emotions, feelings, all of these are limited goods, necessary for a good life, but they are not the target of human happiness.
Animals live their lives according to pleasure and pain. Humans are different. We can override those immediate impulses and decide what to do.
Human love is made for infinity. Anytime you put this infinite desire for happiness in a limited good, you will find frustrated and you will find unhappiness on them.
Most people are thirsting for something real. And when they're turning to pleasure or turning to emotion, they're looking for something that's going to fill themselves in such a way that they don't need anything else.
And if that's true, then it just seems evident to me that my happiness, your happiness, human happiness is bound up with this part of us. It's bound up with this spiritual part of us.
So I think even when people seek pleasure and seek emotion, they're really trying to seek true happiness. What we try to do is not correct people, but reorient them and say, hey, what you're seeking isn't there, it's over here.
And it's this longing for the eternal that seems to be wrapped up with our notion of happiness.
Moral law and ethics is not there to limit you, is to make you flourish. The recipe, if you want to see, you have to follow, and then you will find happiness.
I think in our culture, we have this sense of, I want to do what I want to do. But if you're doing what God doesn't want, even if you think you want to do it, ultimately you're not happy.
The moral law is not to put limits to you. It's all the contrary. It's to find the maximal flourishing in your nature. The maximal. In the same way that there are laws in nature, how to make a plant to grow well, you know what I mean? If you don't follow these rules, the plant will die.
If you can't teach them happiness, you can show it to them, to the lives of the saints.
And that was St. Augustine's path. St. Augustine sought happiness in different kinds of pleasures and philosophies until eventually he found the one thing that could fill him and not disappear, not be lost. And that was the love of God. And ultimately, that is the source of happiness for every human being.
When Thomas talks about the perfect possession of the perfect good, he says ultimately that good must be God. And so somehow our happiness, this perfect possession of this perfect good, comes in our knowledge of God.
Forget yourself. Stop thinking too much about yourself. This is the source of a lot of unhappiness. We are made to create happiness in others. And in doing this, you find happiness.
And ultimately, love is about self-gift and the giving of ourselves, as Jesus did. And that really is, I think,
and in doing this, paradoxically, we get happiness.
confession, sacrament of confession, sacrament of joy. But I find that myself included, even if there's nothing big that needs to be confessed, going to confession for whatever reason, the grace that's received in the sacrament, I think helps us become more happy, joy-filled Christians.
What is
Well, that was really something nice about this happiness that we have heard. Now, in the second video, when we saw, they were more talking about spirituality, they were talking about God, they were talking about heaven, knowing God is happiness, right? Having that blissful heaven is happiness, right? And happiness is all about something good, morally good, what you talk about. So the first video, there was something more physical happiness that was speaking about. And in the second video, they were talking more about getting that practical happiness of knowing what is God, what is heaven, the everlasting happiness that we have ever after. So with that, now I would like to again come back to our lesson where what is exactly happiness about, right? Now, we know that the author in this lesson talks about questions. He says, he starts off with Solomon's proverb that he says that only the heart knows its bitterness, and a strange doth not intermeddle with its joy. We really know very little about people whom we meet. So the writer starts the essay by saying that we do not know if the person who is in front of us is happy or not, because the face is only a mask. Maybe you may see a very good smiling face, but we do not know what is the sorrow that is really hidden within the heart. So, and then Robert Browning thanks God that the meanest of his creatures have two soul sides, one to face the world with and one to show a woman when he loves her. So he says, you know, Robert Browning says that God has given us two faces. That is, one we show it to our dear ones and one we show it to the world. It is only in the intimacy of family life or in the rare thing of a perfect friendship that the veil is partially drawn. That is, maybe your mother may know what exactly you are with the intimacy that you have with your mother, or your sibling might know in and out of you, depending on the intimacy that you have, or sometimes a dear friend with whom you share everyone. As yesterday I shared a movie where the actor family doesn't know that their child is unhappy. They thought that they're giving him the best in their life and that the child is very happy. But his friends knew how unhappy he was and what is it that he wanted, right? So the perception, even in the videos that we saw, the perception of happiness differs from individual to individual, right? For a sick person, the sickness, coming out of the sickness will be a great happiness, right? So happiness, uh, in the video she said, before I was diagnosed with cancer, my happiness was something else. It was like getting graduated or having a good job, having a perfect partner in the life. But then after being diagnosed with cancer, her perception about life was something different. For a mother, cuddling her son is a big happiness, right? Or seeing a smile on the child's face is the biggest happiness that a mother can really have. So here, the writer is trying to say that it is very difficult for us to know whether someone is really happy or not. Even the closest son, or sometimes even the mother, cannot understand the child, whether the child is really happy or what is it that makes them really very happy. Then in the next stanza, the writer goes on to question, who are really the happiest people? It is odd that we have no answer ready. For with most of us, happiness is our being's end and aim. We are sometimes in doubt whether our own balance is on the right side or on the wrong. Looking back, I think I can separate the years when I was happy and those when I was unhappy. But perhaps at the time, I should have judged differently. We are never either so happy or so miserable. So he goes on to say, we really don't know who is happy, or what is it that makes. Is it only the things that make us happy? If that is the case, then all the rich people should have been really happy. But we don't know. We don't know whether this is happy or that is happy. Sometimes when we turn back, or say at this age for you, enjoyment is happiness, but I have passed through that stage. So for me, happiness can be something different. So as the age passes, our perception or our view of happiness keep changing, right? And that is what he's trying to say. Or what was happiness for me when I was young may not be the same thing that may give me happiness now. There is something else that can give me happiness now. So the successful man generally tells us that he was happiest while he was still struggling for his success, or sometimes before he discovered that an ambitious career was open to him. As a rule, the game of life is worth playing. So for a successful man, you know, the struggling period could have been his happiness, right? And not this particular stage that he is going through. So it is generally supposed that the young are happier than the old. This seems to be very doubtful. Young people are often very unhappy because they have so many things, you know, they are in a dilemma. They want, say a person who's interested in music wants to pursue his passion, but life cannot go on. Parents wants him to have a good career because nobody would give a girl, or if somebody wants to give a girl, they want to see that you are settled in life, or say the pressures of the world is something else. So the young boy is in a total conflict of what to do. Should I aspire for my dream, or should I go with the world? So he says young people are not settled, so they are in conflict with their dreams, in conflict with the ways of the world, so they are naturally not happy. Then who is happy? is the, to a certain extent, he agrees that the old people are happy, but even old people are not happy because they feel that they go through so much of pain, so many ailments, that they feel that old age is a curse. So then the question is put forward that the married are supposed to be happier than the single. They are certainly less prone to commit suicide, but suicide is not a very good test. And it has been pointed out that married people with no children are much less suicidally inclined than bachelors. So then he puts a question that maybe married people are much happier, but and that unmarried people are unhappier because he gives a justification saying that they commit more suicides than the married people. But that is also not fair because an analysis showed that married people with no children were also prone to commit suicide. So, on what basis can we say that married people are happy? Only we can still hold this as something good, that married people are more happy if only the match is exact, if only their match is a perfect match. What if the match is not perfect? Then marriage is also a big hell for everybody. So then again he comes back to the question, who is happy? So very contradictory. He's trying to put both the statements, and the writer is trying to oppose by giving explanations that he cannot say that the young are happy, he cannot say the old are happy, he cannot say the unmarried are happy or the married are happy. Now, on the whole, the happiest people seem to be those who have no particular cause for being happy except the fact that they are so. A good reason, no doubt, and yet it should not choose a naturally contented temperament as my first request from a fairy godmother. It would be unfortunate if I say I wish to be the happiest man in England and promptly found myself locked up in an asylum, a cheerful lunatic who believed himself to be the emperor of China. Now he says, I cannot say, if we really want to ask someone, right, who is the happiest person? And then the godmother would say, well, the mad people are the happiest people. And if I put you in that place, would you agree? If you look at, yes, the mad people are the happiest people on the earth because, they feel that they are the emperors. They feel that they can dream of being anything in this world because they are not living in this world of reality, and they don't have any worries, they don't have any tensions because they live in their dream world. So yes, they are happy because they are not facing the harsh realities of the world. But can you agree with that? If you agree, would you exchange your position with that? That is what the writer is asking the question. Well, none of us would want to be in a madhouse, right? We would rather be unhappy, but we would not want to have that happiness which the writer is claiming is happy to be a madman in a madman's world. So then, who is happy, right? So, who is happy is a very big question that we have. I've noticed with surprise how often the biographies of great men reveal that they were subject to frequent and severe fits of depression, which the world knows nothing of. Perhaps it's only shallow nature who never feel tragedy of existence. I can sympathize with the man who wrote, "Send me hence 10,000 miles from a face which always smiles." So, he says that even the great people who have achieved great success in their life are not really happy. They are also not very happy in their lives because they also had their bouts of depression. So he's asking, send me to that place where if somebody has said that they were happy all the time. So according to the writer, no one can be happy all the time. No one can be sad all the time. So he is trying to search for a perfect answer. Now we have seen two videos. Did we really get a perfect answer? Who is happy? Because for everyone, the perception of happiness is different. Momentary happiness, long-term happiness. Long-term happiness, for how long can somebody be happy? Again, there is a dark phase in somebody's life. So what is happiness? And then he says, monks are happy? No. Even the monks, the writer feels that they're not happy, because running away from responsibilities, living in idleness is also one of the deadliest sins of the 7 sins that are mentioned in the Bible. So even just laying off without any work is not happy. Nobody is happy. If everything is given a rich man and you say sit and eat, even that person feels is unhappy. And then the writer tries to go on saying that religion is a great source of happiness because it gives us the right standard of values and enables us to regard our troubles as a light affliction, which is but for a moment. But the religious temperament is susceptible to more grievous things. So he says even religion is not something that is really very happy, right? Because he says that religion also, people, to some extent, it may give them relief, but after some extent, even that religion may bring down their happiness. It may cause misery, or it may bring fits of misery than any other thing else. So finally, even in religion, he could not find happiness. So yesterday we stopped here. Now we'll move a bit further, where he tries to say that we hear sometimes of the gaiety which prevails in a monastery or nunnery. I confess that this vapid spiritual hilarity rather irritates me. Running away from life ought not to make people happy. Unworldliness based on knowledge of the world is the finest thing on earth, but unworldliness based on ignorance of the world is less admirable. He says, even the nuns, even the priests who run away from this world, or the sages who go and sit and meditate in jungles, do you think they are happy? That is rubbish. Running away from reality, running away from responsibilities, living in laziness cannot be happy. Even they have their bouts of unhappiness. So he disagrees that people who seek religious confinement for happiness will be ever happy. No, they can never be happy, because the more they try to probe into this existence of world, what is God, what is heaven, what is earth, then these questions may again put them into bouts of fits of unhappiness. So he says, running away from responsibilities, being like a monk. Gautama Buddha thought that. He ran away, he went, he searched for happiness, and he comes back with an answer saying, what is happiness? Happiness is nothing but facing life, right? So for each one, he too wanted to become a sannyasi, but Gautama Buddha did not find happiness there. He found an answer for what is happiness, and he came back. He found an answer for what is misery, for what is suffering, and he came back. So nothing can give us a permanent solution. Very different is the happiness enjoyed by such a saint as the Hindu mystic and Christian missionary, right? Sadhu Sundar Singh, whose life has just been written by Canon Streeter. It is one of the most fascinating, right? It is one of the most fascinating books that I have read for a long time. The sadhu has undergone every kind of persecution, including 2 days at the bottom of a well in Tibet, where he found himself among the decaying corpses of former victims. He lives the life of St. Francis of Assisi and is happy as the most Christ-like of saints. An English parlour maid announced him to her mistress as follows: "There's someone come to see you, ma'am. I can't make nothing of his name, but he looks as if he might be Jesus Christ. I urge my readers to read the Sadhu. It will make them feel better or worse, which is much the same thing in this connection." Now here, the writer gives the example of Sadhu, that is that Sadhu Sundar Singh, who, went to Tibet, went and sat in between the dead bodies, or did all possible things to find happiness. But what is the conclusion is that happiness is not in all these things. Maybe momentarily you may find some happiness, but again, different questions that come into one person's mind may again put him into a perplexed state to know what exactly is happiness. Finding the ultimate truth is happiness. Living life is happiness. Running away from life is happiness. What is happiness? The writer could not give us a very exact answer of exactly what happiness is, right? So that is the strange thing. And he says, to descend from these heights, the busy are happier than the idle, and the man who has found his work much happier than the man who has not found it. Then he says, who is happy? The busy people are happy. People who are busy are happy, or people who are idle are happy. And what he found was that people who are busy are much happier because they have some sort of goal in their life. They are achieving something in their life, right? And they're doing something in their life. So what is, they are much, because an idle man sits and says, oh my God, how long can you be free? I don't want to do any work, but how long can you be like that? He feels that his life is boring. What is there? There is nothing in life. How long can one enjoy? There is a limit. Then that enjoyment also becomes a boring after a certain period of time. So he says, maybe a busy man is to some extent happier than the idle man. Recognition by others is essential to all, but those are the strongest and proudest virtue. I think I should put it third among the gifts which I should ask from the fairy godmother above mentioned. I should wish first for wisdom like King Solomon, and by wisdom I mean a just estimate of the relative value of things. My second wish would be for domestic happiness, and my third for the approval of my fellows. So very beautifully, the writer says that he could not, though he has been giving so many questions of what is happiness, he feels that the right thing for happiness could be if he were given three choices and asked to ask wishes, then first thing that he would ask was that for the he would ask for wisdom like King Solomon. And by wisdom, he means an estimate of knowing the value of things. So like King Solomon's wisdom, the first wish would be that the writer would ask for wisdom like Solomon. And second wish he would wish was that domestic happiness, that is, his married life should be a very happy life. And third, that he would have friends with whom he will be happy. So these are the three wishes he would ask. If at all, he would be given a choice to ask what happiness is. Napoleon is said to have recommended a hard heart and a good digestion. According to Napoleon, a hard heart so that he can face anything in life, and a good digestion, that is, the physical health should be good, and that is happiness according to Napoleon as the chief conditions of happiness. I have nothing to say against the second, but a life without affection and sympathy could give only a very negative kind of happiness. He says, if one has to have happiness in life, one has to be, one has to have affection, and one need to show sympathy towards others. Only then one is leading a very happy life. Otherwise, that is not a real happy life. So he says, according to Napoleon, what is it that is a happy life? A hard heart and a good digestion can no doubt be the chief conditions for happiness. Then he says, can we say that some periods of history were happier than the other? Every king's rule had some happiness and some tragedy, right? Nobody can doubt that we have fallen upon evil times, and it seems to be true that we take public affairs much more tragically than they did in the 18th century. Dr. Johnson lived through the American War, the greatest misfortune that has ever happened to the British Empire. But this is how he delivers himself about public calamities. Now, he's giving the example of Dr. Johnson, who lived through the American War and the greatest misfortune, and how is he trying to tell about happiness is that he says that, Boswell, if I were in Parliament, I should be vexed if things went wrong. Then Johnson says, that's uh, that can't be, sir. Public affairs vex no man. Boswell, have they not vexed you a little, sir? Have you not been vexed by all the turbulence of this reign? Sir, I have never slept an hour less, nor ate an ounce less meat. Now, if you say that you have lived in the worst period of time and you were very unhappy, and he says, how can, if I was unhappy, it was not that I did not sleep nor I did not eat. So can you say that a period is completely unhappy, or can we say that a period is completely happy? No, it has its own share. If there were wars, if there was too many things of happening that was not good, you mean to say that people were not happy in that era? No, perceptions change. That yes, maybe living for that particular day was happiness for them in the midst of war, right? Or every day seeing morning sunlight was itself a way of happiness. So that is what he says, that we cannot assign that people were completely unhappy, nor we can assign that people were completely happy. It all differs from people to people. Now, even in this COVID times, every day getting up without being affected is a source of happiness for us, isn't it? So, or getting a slight ray of hope of that, yes, one place vaccine has come, another vaccine is coming on its way, or reading the news, yes, it is going to come now, it is going to come then, you know, that is also giving us a sort of happiness. So even in the darkest period, we are trying to look out, yes, these small news is giving us a ray of hope, a ray of happiness. So that is what he tried to say. So very beautifully he ends the lesson where he says, where the writer is trying to say that we are not so philosophical. There must be many thousands of English men who, like myself, were awake all night after the first ominous bulletin about Jutland, which seemed to hint at a great naval disaster. But all through the war, when things were looking bad, I tried to remember another scene from English history. We are told that in the days of Commonwealth, Bulstrode, there was an ambassador who was tossing about through the night in anxiety about the condition of his country. You know, he says that the history, even during the worst period of war, there was in the history that there was one beautiful incident that the writer is trying to share, where, you know, the ambassador was tossing about through the night in anxiety about the condition of his country. An old servant lying in the same room addressed him. Now, this ambassador is moving up and down, listening to the news that there was a big disaster, the naval ship has drowned, people were being killed, or the news was all about unhappiness. And he was roaming up and down, wondering what's going to happen next. And in that very same room, there was his old servant who was lying in this room, looking at his master, being so worried, looking at his master who is so tensed. He tries to ask, sir, may I ask you a question? Certainly, replied the ambassador. Sir, did God govern the world well before you came into it? So he's asking a question to him, and he's asking and he's saying, sir, can I ask you a question? You look very depressed. You look very worried. Can I ask you one question? It was during the World War that was going on. And he says, certainly you can ask. And then he says, sir, did God govern the world well before you came into it? Did God rule the world before you came into this world? And then the ambassador said, undoubtedly, and will. His he rule the world well when you have gone out of it? Supposing you die, will God rule the world? Then he says, undoubtedly. So even before you were born, God ruled the world. Now if you die, even after your death, God will rule the world. Then, sir, can you trust him to rule the world well while you are in it? Can you trust him? So then he says, sir, can you trust him to rule the world well while you are in it? The tired ambassador turned on his side and fell asleep. And here he ends the lesson with this beautiful anecdote which happens during the World War. He says, sir, you believe that God ruled this world before you came into this world. You believe that God will rule this world even after you going out of this world. Then why don't you believe that God will rule even when you are alive now? Why don't you have that faith in God? Why don't you have that trust in God that He is going to take care of this world now? And after listening to that from that servant, he thought, yes, why am I being so tensed? God was there before my birth. God will be there after my death. Why not God now when I am alive? And then peacefully he goes to sleep. So after having asked so many questions, the writer ends with faith or trust in God. So very beautifully, the essay, the present essay, he explores the things, the qualities that can make a happy man, right? The essay attempts, in this essay, the writer attempts to find out who are the people who are happy, right? And then he goes on, the heart of a man is known to him alone who is happy. Nobody can tell that this person is happy or this person is not happy, right? And he goes on to say that there is no answer. We all feel happiness in our life is achieving our goal. Successful people say that their struggle made them happy, right? And some say young people are happy, but they are not happy. They have their own problems. Some say old people are happy, but they are also not happy. They have their own problems. The young have their own problems. The married have their own problems. The unmarried have their own problems. If you say religion can give you happiness, no, religion cannot give us happiness. Even religion has its bouts of happiness, right? And nuns or priests, are they happy? No, they are also not happy. They also have their unhappiness. And what, according to Napoleon said, that hard heart and good digestion is happiness. But that also we do not know how far it can lead us to happy. But finally, the writer ends the lesson by saying that happiness is found in having trust in God. So very beautifully he answers the questions, and he gives the answers, and again he opposes the answers, and he ends with a beautiful anecdote saying that one should have trust in God, and then happiness follows on its own, right? So a very beautiful essay that is. And here I would like to share some beautiful things that what other people have to say about happiness. So let us listen to this, and what this person has to say about.
There was a king, and the king was walking with his minister one day, and in the farm he saw a farmer along with his family, husband, wife, and son. They were buzzing, so much life in them. Their faces were radiant, they were happy, they were beaming with joy. They were singing. There's so much affection and love for each other. And the king said, man, I have a massive palace and I have everything that one could dream for. And these guys are more happier than me. Why? Minister said, sir, because this family is not a member of the 99 Club. So the king said, what is 99 club? Minister said, give me 99 gold coins, I'll tell you. So the king gave him a bag of 99 gold coins, and the minister said, after 6 months, I will tell you, not today. So the minister took that bag of 99 gold coins and put it right at the doorstep of the farmer. In the morning when the farmer got up, he saw a bag right at his doorstep. He picked the bag up, went back into his house. Excited as he was, he opened the bag, and gosh, lo and behold, glittering gold coins. He'd never come across such a stroke of good fortune. He emptied the contents of the floor and started counting. They were 99. बोला नहीं मैं गड़बड़ किया गिनने में इतना एक्साइटेड हूँ कि वापस गिनता हूँ. वापस गिना 99. He said, कौन है वो idiot जो एक डालना भूल गया? डालना चाहिए था तो राउंड फिगर होना चाहिए ना. ये 99 पे क्या किया? So he called his wife, तू गिन भाई, मेरा सर चलने लगा. So she counted. बोले नहीं 99. बोले तेरा भी नहीं चल रहा है. He called the son, said गिन. Everyone 99. He said, God, we can't live like this. इसको 100 तो करना पड़ेगा. So he started working hard to get that one gold coin, and it would take him months and years to get one. And then the wife was thinking, my husband, such a nut. Such a nut. We have 99 gold coins, and this guy doesn't spend anything. So she took 2 gold coins and went for shopping. So every day the guy would come, and in the evening he would count the gold coins. So that day he came and he counted the gold coins. Only 97. पहले एक कम था, अभी 2 गया. So he shouted, where did the 2 gold coins go? She said, well, I'm not a nut like you. I thought I'll go do some shopping. So I went and spent the 2 gold coins. Oh God, the farmer yelled, I am toiling, working hard, putting my blood and sweat to get that 1 gold coin, and you nuts just spending these 2 gold coins away. Meanwhile, the son spent 2 more, 95 left. 6 months passed by, and the king and the minister were walking by. And the buzz had gone, the life had gone, the song had gone, the love had gone. There's only arguments, fights, bickering. And the king said, what happened? 6 महीने में इतना कैसे बदल गए लोग? The minister said, now they are officially members of the 99 club. So the king said, man, you took 99 gold coins. What is the 99 club? The minister said, 99 club is a club of those who have 99 gold coins, but in running after the one, they don't use their 99 gold coins. एक के पीछे भागते 100 पे पहुंचते ना, ये 99 का क्या अचार डालना है? I have learned one thing in my life, and I thoroughly believe in it. Don't wait for the destination. Start finding happiness while you are on the journey. Don't postpone your happiness to then. 10वीं में जाऊंगा, 12वीं में जाऊंगा, नौकरी मिलेगा, ऐसा होएगा, तैसा होएगा, फिर होगा. Today, I may have the greatest challenge. That doesn't mean I should postpone my satisfaction. Today I may be in the middle of the greatest chaos. That doesn't mean I should postpone my satisfaction. Happiness is a journey, not a destination.
Well, that was a very beautiful one that was shared to us. Very nice. See how beautifully he said that how our happiness varies. Before the money could come really into their lives, the farmer was very happy. But, you know, instead of enjoying what we get, we are trying to seek what we don't have. And that is where our happiness vanishes. So happiness is finding it throughout your journey. Every day, your life you're living is happiness. So with this beautiful anecdote, I would like to share one more small little share I would like to do. Just listen to this great spiritual leader, what he
Just
says.
a question, but it's something that evades everybody. How does one manage to find happiness? Oh, a really simple question. But no one today is happy.
Where do you see that? Do I look unhappy?
You don't. So many people around us are just not, or they're not be able to be happy for other people, or just with what they have necessarily. They're always looking for the next goal, purpose, something. It could be material vindication, it could be experiential, anything.
One simple thing is, every human experience has a chemical basis to it. Okay. What you call as peace is one kind of chemistry. What you call as happiness or joy is another kind of chemistry. Ecstasy is one kind of chemistry, agony is another kind of chemistry, anxiety another kind of chemistry, stress another kind of chemistry. All levels of pleasantness and unpleasantness is rooted in a certain chemical background within you.
Okay.
Or in other words, what you call as this is a certain chemical soup.
Okay.
The question is only, are you a great soup or a lousy soup?
Okay.
Now, if I give soup making ingredients to 10 different people, the same ingredients, 10 people will not produce the same soup.
True.
10 soups will taste in 10 different ways, though the ingredients are same. Similarly, all of us are made with the same ingredients, but see in how many different ways we made ourselves. So it's time to pay attention to soup making, that this is a great soup, this is not a lousy soup. If you establish a chemistry of blissfulness, that's how you will be. This is what we're teaching people. We are not advising people to be happy or peaceful. We are teaching them how to engineer your chemistry the way you want it. You create a chemistry of blissfulness, then why are you bothered about being happy? That's how it'll be.
In fact, Sadhguru, you've in fact created an organization where there is a lot of, people are volunteering, they're happy.
So that was a very beautiful way of saying that, each one of us have, even if we give the same ingredients, we make different soup. So be happy with the soup that you have and find happiness and bliss in what you have. So with this takeoff, I would end my lesson on happy people. So it is always good to have trust in God, to be contentful with what we have and find happiness in the everyday little joys that we have, instead of trying to search for it somewhere else. So I would like to thank you all very much for listening to this class. Thank you once again. Stay safe, stay home, don't venture out. If at all you have to go out, please wear your mask and maintain your distance. Thank you.